He was the man who changed the world, not with ideas, not with philosophies, but with fire and iron, with ambition and genius. He was the man who conquered Gaul, who defied the Senate, who crossed a forbidden river, and, in doing so, sealed the fate of the Roman Republic. His name echoes through the centuries as a synonym for power, courage, betrayal, and death. Gaius Julius Caesar, the general, the consul, the dictator, the god. The story of Julius Caesar is not just the story of one man, it is the story of Rome. It is the story of the end of one era and the beginning of another. It is the story of how one man, driven by glory, destroyed the Republic to build an empire. And it is the story of how his own friends, those he trusted most, stabbed him in the back. This is the journey of Julius Caesar, from the conquests of Gaul to his last words, from the height of power to the blood on the marble. Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. But victory, as Caesar discovered, has a price, and the price of eternal glory is death. Imagine a man, not an ordinary man, but a titan. His armor gleams under the Gallic sun, his cloak red as the blood he will shed. His horse is black as night, and his sword is swift as lightning. This man is Julius Caesar, and he is about to accomplish the greatest conquest of his life, Gaul.
A land of dense forests, towering mountains, and warlike tribes that never bowed to Rome. The Gauls were fierce, proud, indomitable. They fought with the courage of despair and the ferocity of beasts. For Rome, Gaul was a threat. For Caesar, Gaul was an opportunity. The year was 58 BC. Caesar was proconsul of Cisalpine Gaul and Transalpine Gaul. He commanded 4 legions, about 20,000 men. But Caesar was not just a general. He was a politician, a strategist, a visionary. He knew that conquering Gaul would bring him the glory he so desired, the power he needed, and the wealth he coveted. And he also knew that by conquering Gaul, he would create an army loyal to him, not to Rome, an army that would follow him to hell and back. And that is exactly what happened. For 8 years, Caesar fought in Gaul. Battle after battle, tribe after tribe, city after city. He faced the Helvetii, the Belgians, the Nervii, the Aquitanians. He crossed the Rhine, invaded Germania, crossed the English Channel, and reached Britain. He built bridges, destroyed armies, besieged fortresses. Gaul was ablaze. Caesar was ruthless, merciless, and brilliant. His legions adored him. His enemies feared him. He was not just a general. He was a force of nature. But there was one man who would dare to challenge him, a man who would unite the Gallic tribes against Rome, a man who would become the last great leader of Gaul. His name was Vercingetorix.
Vercingetorix was not like the other Gallic chieftains. He was young, charismatic, and intelligent. He saw Gaul not as a collection of rival tribes, but as a united nation, a nation that should fight for freedom. When Caesar invaded Gaul, Vercingetorix united the tribes, raised an army, and confronted Rome head-on. He knew he could not defeat Caesar in open battle, so he used the scorched earth tactic. He burned cities, destroyed crops, retreated to the mountains. He wanted to tire the Romans, starve them, force them to retreat. But Caesar was more cunning. He pursued Vercingetorix, surrounded him, and imprisoned him in a fortress, Alesia. The Battle of Alesia is one of the greatest masterpieces of military strategy of all time. Vercingetorix was inside the fortress with 80,000 men.
Caesar was outside with about 60,000 legionaries. But Caesar was not content with besieging Alesia. He built two enormous walls, one to prevent Vercingetorix from escaping, and another to protect himself from a reinforcement army that was on its way. Caesar was surrounded on both sides. His men were tired, hungry, exhausted, but Caesar did not retreat. He fought with the fury of the desperate, and he won. When the Gallic reinforcement army was defeated, Vercingetorix knew that all was lost. He had no more hope. He had no more allies. He had no other options. He donned his best armor, mounted his horse, and rode to the Roman camp. Before Caesar, he dismounted, knelt, and threw his weapons at the conqueror's feet. It was the gesture of a defeated king. It was the symbol of Gaul's subjugation. Vercingetorix was taken in chains to Rome, where he would remain imprisoned for 6 years. And then, on the day of Caesar's triumph, he was executed. Gaul was conquered. Rome was the mistress of Western Europe, and Caesar was the most powerful man in the Republic. The conquest of Gaul transformed Caesar into a hero, but it also transformed him into a threat. The Roman Senate, led by Pompey and the conservatives, feared Caesar's power. They did not want him to return to Rome as a conqueror. They wanted him to disband his army and submit to the authority of the Senate. But Caesar knew that if he did that, he would be lost. His political enemies would prosecute him, exile him, destroy him. Caesar had a choice: submit and accept humiliation, or challenge Rome and seize power by force. In the year 49 BC, Caesar was encamped with his legions in Cisalpine Gaul, northern Italy. To enter Italy with his army, he would need to cross a small river, the Rubicon. This river was the legal border of Italy, and no general could cross it with troops. Crossing it meant starting a civil war. It meant challenging the Senate, challenging the Republic, challenging everything Rome stood for. Caesar stopped on the banks of the Rubicon. Legend says he hesitated, weighing the consequences. He looked at the water, to the other side, to the future. He was about to destroy the Republic his ancestors had built. He was about to become a dictator, a king, a tyrant. His shadow, war, loomed behind him, waiting for the moment to materialize. But Caesar was not a man of hesitation. He was a man of action.
With a sigh, he uttered the words that would echo for eternity. Alea iacta est. The die is cast. He gave an order, and his legions advanced, crossing the shallow waters of the Rubicon. The Roman Republic was dead. The Roman Empire was being born. The civil war was swift and brutal. Caesar pursued Pompey to Greece, then to Egypt. In Alexandria, he received news that Pompey had been assassinated on the orders of the king of Egypt, Ptolemy XIII. Caesar feigned sadness at the death of his former ally and rival, but in reality, he was relieved. One less enemy. But Caesar didn't come to Egypt just to defeat Pompey. He came to meet a legendary woman, Cleopatra. Cleopatra was the queen of Egypt, a woman of stunning beauty and sharp intelligence. She spoke 9 languages, knew philosophy, astronomy, and medicine. She was a born politician, a ruthless seductress, a survivor. Ptolemy XIII, her brother and rival, had ousted her from the throne. Cleopatra needed a powerful ally to regain power, and Caesar was the perfect ally. Legend says that Cleopatra wrapped herself in a carpet and was carried to Caesar's palace. When the carpet was unrolled, the queen appeared before the Roman general, dazzling, naked, irresistible. Caesar, the conqueror of Gaul, the dictator of Rome, the man who never knelt before anyone, knelt before Cleopatra. He fell in love.
And not only did he fall in love, but he also saw in her a strategic opportunity. Cleopatra would give him control of Egypt, the wealth of the Nile, and a son. Ptolemy 15th Caesar, the Caesarian, was Caesar's heir. With Cleopatra by his side, Caesar was the king of the world. But power corrupts, and corruption creates enemies. Caesar returned to Rome as a hero and as a tyrant. He had won the civil war, defeated Pompey, conquered Egypt. The Senate named him dictator for life, a title Rome had never given to anyone. He was the most powerful man in the world. But Caesar's power came at a price. He had humiliated the Senate, despised traditions, concentrated all power in his own hands. The senators, the same ones who had once feared him, now hated him. They saw Caesar as a tyrant, as a king, as an enemy of the Republic, and they were willing to do anything to stop him. A conspiracy began to form. Its leaders were Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus. Brutus was especially important. He was a friend of Caesar, had been pardoned by him after the Civil War. Caesar trusted Brutus, loved him like a son. But Brutus had a greater loyalty to Rome. He believed that Caesar was destroying the Republic and that to save it, he needed to kill the dictator. The conspiracy grew. More than 60 senators joined. They planned to attack Caesar on March 15th, the Ides of March, during a Senate meeting.
On the eve of the attack, many omens foretold Caesar's death. A soothsayer had warned, "Beware the Ides of March." Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, had a dream in which she saw her husband covered in blood. The priests found unfavorable omens in the sacrifices, but Caesar, arrogant or courageous, ignored all warnings. He would go to the Senate. He was not afraid. He was Julius Caesar. He was invincible. Or at least, that's what he thought. On March 15th, 44 BC, Julius Caesar entered the Senate. He was confident, unconcerned. The senators were seated in their chairs, waiting. As Caesar sat down, the conspirators approached, pretending to greet him. Suddenly, one of them grabbed his toga. It was the signal. The daggers gleamed in the light. The senators surrounded Caesar. He tried to fight, but he was surrounded. The blades pierced his body. Blood gushed out, staining the white toga and the marble floor. And then Caesar saw Brutus. The man he loved, the man he had forgiven, the man he treated like a son, was among the assassins. Brutus raised his dagger and plunged it into Caesar's chest. It was the final blow, not because it was fatal, but because it was treacherous. Caesar fell at the foot of the statue of Pompey, the man who had been his rival, the man he had defeated. With his last breath, Caesar uttered the words that would echo for eternity. "Et tu, Brutus? You too, Brutus? Fall then, Caesar." These were his last words. Not a curse, not a cry of pain, but a question. A question that would never be answered. Why, Brutus? Why the betrayal? Why had the man he trusted most turned against him? Caesar died with 23 stab wounds to his body. It was the end of a man, but it was the beginning of a legend. The assassins, the so-called liberators, believed they were saving the Republic, but they were wrong. Caesar's death did not restore the Republic. It plunged Rome into a new civil war, a war that would end with the birth of the empire. Caesar had won even in death, for his death, more than his life, would guarantee his immortality.
When news of Caesar's death spread through Rome, the people were furious. They did not see Caesar as a tyrant. They saw him as a hero, as a protector, as a father. He had distributed land to the poor, had forgiven his enemies, had brought glory to Rome. The assassins, the senators, were seen as traitors and murderers. The people wanted revenge. On the day of Caesar's funeral, a huge crowd gathered in the forum. Mark Antony, Caesar's friend and ally, gave a passionate speech. He showed the people Caesar's bloodied body, the toga torn by daggers, the 23 wounds.
He read Caesar's will, which bequeathed money to every citizen of Rome. The people were seized by an uncontrollable fury. They turned the funeral into a riot. They grabbed torches, pieces of wood, and rushed to the Senate. They set the building on fire, destroyed the statues of the conspirators, and hunted the assassins through the streets. Rome was in flames. The Senate bonfire was the symbol of the end, not only of Caesar's life, but of the Republic. The people had chosen their side. They did not want the return of the old senators, the old traditions, the old Republic. They wanted a new leader, an emperor, a king. They wanted Caesar. And even in death, Caesar would give them what they wanted. For from his death, the Roman Empire would be born. His nephew and adopted son, Octavian, would become Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Caesar's legacy would live on for more than 500 years. Julius Caesar lived only 56 years, but in his short life, he changed the world. He conquered Gaul, defeated Pompey, crossed the Rubicon, fell in love with Cleopatra, and was assassinated by his friends. His story is a Greek tragedy, a story of ambition, power, and betrayal. But it is also a story of transformation. Caesar destroyed the Roman Republic, but in its place he built an empire that would last for centuries. He was neither a saint nor a demon. He was a man.
A brilliant, ambitious, ruthless, and human man. A man who, even in his darkest moments, never stopped seeking glory. Caesar teaches us that power is a double-edged sword. It can build or destroy. It can save or kill. It can make a man a god or a corpse. Caesar chose power, and power destroyed him. But in being destroyed, he became immortal. His name lives on in our language, in our laws, in our culture. The title of Caesar has become synonymous with emperor, ruler, king. The months of the calendar bear his name, July, in honor of Julius Caesar. His life is a lesson about the price of ambition, about the cost of glory, about the value of loyalty, and about the betrayal that often comes from where we least expect it. The story of Julius Caesar is the story of Rome. It is the story of the end of the Republic and the birth of the Empire. It is the story of a man who dared to dream bigger than anyone before him, and who, in dreaming, destroyed the world he knew and created a new one. Caesar fell, but his shadow rose. His blood stained the marble of the Senate, but his words echo through the centuries. Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. He came, he saw, and he conquered. But victory, as he discovered, is always bitter. For eternal glory is only won through death. And Caesar, the man who conquered the world, conquered immortality at the price of his life. Until the next journey.